Hello book lovers, I'm Mirabel and I want to speak about all the books I read this summer, so let's get to it. So let's start with what I read in June. The first one is A Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martin. I read the first book, Memory Called Empire, in March and then this one in June. After finishing both books, I admit that I enjoyed the first book a little bit more than the second book, which is unfortunate because I was excited with the first contact with aliens setup. However, the first part of this book almost put me in a reading slump for some reason. It was pretty slow, it didn't give me what I wanted. There were some scenes that I loved. The one on the ship, in the laboratory, that was an amazing moment and I wanted more of that in this one. Also the relationships could have gone more attention, more depth. Some of the new characters were really nice and they could have been explored a little bit more. If we ever get a spin-off about them, that would be nice. Overall, it is a good book, but unfortunately, it ended just when it was truly starting for me. Next in June, I listened to the audio of Becky Chambers' A Psalm for the Wild Build. So this book is very well loved, I would say. The style and the prose doesn't fit for everyone. It is the first book by Becky Chambers I have heard or read, and I have to say I did like this audiobook and the story. It was something a little bit different, something more melancholic, I would say, and kind of philosophical and sweet and motivating and making you love life and the little things, the little enjoyment, I would say. There is another book, I didn't read it yet, and I will definitely read that one as well. Dune Messiah was another book I read. It is the second book in the Dune series. I was excited to jump into this after reading Dune and loving that book, even though it's not perfect. This book is around 300 pages, much shorter than the first one. There were some interesting concepts. I felt like in the last quarter of the book, the story really progressed and the things got really interesting, but that was just a small part of the book. I was almost a little bit bored. However, after reading the third book, by now, I have to say I still enjoy this one, and oh boy, what's next is a little bit more tedious. My first book by Shannon Chakraborty was The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi. It is pretty well-known Indian sea pirates setting. This author is famous for the David Bath trilogy. So what to say about this book? I definitely liked the main character, Amina. She's a strong female character, a leader. She is connecting people, but at the same time she definitely has her flaws, let's be honest. And one of the flaws she has is kind of funny when we get to know that flaw later, if you know what I mean. It's actually one character and I really enjoyed their interactions. It was funny and I wasn't sure which way is it gonna go. Another character I really enjoyed was Delilah. Reading few books that had some seafaring in them. At this point, I'm well aware I'm not the biggest fan of seafaring adventures. I didn't know that when I was reading this book. Thankfully, that did not lower my enjoyment. It was a very nice book. It wasn't perfect. The thing I did not like about this book is the implementation of the magic. It was very nice, very subtle at first. By the end, it got a little bit different, a little bit deeper, and I didn't want it to go that way, which it did. I still will read the next book because there is gonna be more books about the adventures of Amina. I'm curious what next adventures is she gonna go on. I'm very excited that this summer I managed to start the Stormlight Archive, which means starting with the Way of Kings. I have the part 1, part 2. This is, I would say, one of the top 3 fantasy series ever, based on what I've heard and read from all the people in the book community. There's a lot of lovable characters, there's definitely character development, and different themes like mental health issues are tackled in these books. As it is the norm with Brandon Sanderson, the world building is very huge. In the Stormlight Archives, it is quite massive, and this is the start into the Stormlight Archive adventure. It was a nice setup. We get to know the characters a little bit and the start of the journey. We are told about Kaladin's past in these books, It was very enjoyable and you should definitely give it a try. Another genre staple I did read was Red Rising. So it is said that this book, the first book in the series, is the weakest one, and I hope that is true because I expected this to be 5 stars and it wasn't. I enjoyed the start of this book, even though it does contain the trope about certain type of character involved in certain situation, which then propels the main character into action and the journey of the story. I still enjoy that. Then it quickly transforms into the Hunger Games vibes, settings, and that's how the rest of the books goes. So that wasn't the best setting for me, but I do have the second and third book and I will keep reading. Hopefully it will get better. In the summer I did continue reading through the Discworld series. I decided to go in the publication order. So for me that meant reading Equal Rights. I did enjoy the book as all the others I read so far. I did feel like there was big potential and it kinda never truly went anywhere, and in the end not that much happened. So I was a little bit disappointed, but it was still enjoyable. Another book I picked up in the summer was the fourth book in the Mycelium series, which is Vidění, or Seeing in English, I would say. This is a Czech sci-fi series. I think it's very interesting. Some aspects are great. I'm feeling almost bipolar about this because at one time I feel like it is stagnant in the heavy monologue, inner monologue or dialogue sections. But on the other hand, I actually love getting every single information and detail that the author thought about for this world and the story. I am enjoying myself, definitely. But this one is not a series I would manage to read book after book after book. I have to read one book at a time and then go read something else and come back to this. The Blacktongue Thief was the last book I read in July. I do love this contrasting cover and I enjoyed reading this book. The strong points I would say is the world building. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of this world. There's already the Daughter's War and I will be picking up that one. The setting where the goblins are not just some little critters you can beat up with a spoon and be done with it. They're actually very dangerous, and when you meet one you can actually be afraid for your life, which is a lovely change for the traditional fantasy settings, and D&D that's a little bit different and it's lovely. The main character is a little bit cheeky and has a sharp tongue, which might not fit with everyone, definitely. I've heard people dropping this book because of that. I did enjoy that. I did get the impression that the sharp tongue got a little bit blunted, just a little bit, as the story progressed. Maybe I remember it wrong. There were definitely some interesting concepts, but once again I didn't like the seafaring bit, and I also did not appreciate the romance aspect. That was very unnecessary and should have been used for something else. But overall a very good read. The first book in August that I picked up was The Witcher, the last book right now, Season of Storms. This is a separate story that doesn't connect to the main books. My favorite Witcher books are the first two, which are collections of short stories, but I didn't expect anything from this, and that's actually how it went. It wasn't great, it was just average. I read it only because I want to be finished with all of the Witcher books. Overall, I would say just read the plot on the internet and skip this one. Next, I read Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell. What a name. It is another Sanderson story that I did enjoy. Even though it was very short, I still felt the world building was set in that short amount of time. The main character had some aspirations, some fears, some relationships, and yes, the around 50 pages just worked very well and I enjoyed this short story. After that, I ventured into the Robin Hood universe, which I already showed on this channel a few times. So you can know I really enjoyed this book. It's the start of epic journey of Fitz and his companions. My favorite character was the guy whose name I refused to say out loud because I will definitely butcher his name. It's this one. And I definitely have to read the next book before the end of this year. After that 5-star read, I decided to pick up something a little bit different and I went for Blake Crouch, Dark Matter. It's the first book I try to highlight. I realized it might not be my style and I might do it, but very rarely. From what I heard, a lot of people were mind blown reading this book. So my expectations were a little bit too high for this one. And yes, it was pretty average read for me. It wasn't special. Most of the story and twists were predictable. The ending was predictable. My mind was not blown, and that is disappointing. Also, multiple times the main character was kind of infuriating, to be honest, because he's this amazing genius guy, or at least there is the potential to be very intelligent. His behavior is just very unlogical, downright stupid in multiple scenes, and I just can't handle that. All in all, it was average, and I do have recursion from this author. I will read that book. I will see how the next one is gonna be and decide if I want to read more or be done. I close my August and the summer reading as well with Children of Ruin. This is the second book after Children of Time, which I absolutely loved. It was very fresh and unique, and I love the spiders. This brings another planet with another different unique inhabitants to the story. The premise and the structure of the story was quite similar to the first one. It didn't feel that unique. I did enjoy skipping from past to the present and seeing how it all ties and works out together. The conclusion was honestly a little bit disappointing. I expected a little bit more from it, and I am curious how it's all gonna end and tie up in the last book, Children of Memory. This wasn't it. It was good, it was fine, but it wasn't that amazing. And that will be all the books I read this summer. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Let me know down in the comments what books did you read this summer, which are the ones you would definitely recommend to me and other readers. Now I'm gonna continue my autumn reading. I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching and stay bookish.